The phone by Jeff Turzo of now Wired All Wrong. Jeff, are you there?
I'm here.
Cool. And I have to say, you're probably the most punctual musician I have ever talked to in my life, because 7:30 the phone rang right when it was supposed to.
I can't help it.
Now, your new project, Wired All Wrong, a lot of people may remember you from God Lives Underwater, who was a huge band for us here at BER and in Rochester. Wired All Wrong has kind of been a project that, you know, fans have heard about for a while, and it's finally come to see the light of day. Tell us about that. How long did it take you to finally figure out what you were going to do with this, and how did it all come together?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been 5 years now, and it's something I started on my own. You know, looking for collaborators to sing on it, and it took a couple years, and finally my friend Matt, who has been my friend for a long time, said, "Hey, let me try and sing on one of those," and that's what when it really turned into what is Wired All Wrong now. But it still took us a couple years because him and I are both producers as well, and have sort of worked that as our day jobs. And Wired All Wrong was kind of our fun night thing for a couple years, and then then we had an album, and became much more than the fun night thing now. So.
And of course, Matt, who you're referring to, is Matt Mahaffey, who a lot of our listeners may recognize from the band Self. Now, I was reading today when I was getting ready for the interview, one of the bands you just recently produced an album for is another huge band for us, Hello Goodbye.
Yes.
Now, producing, has that pretty much taken up most of your life since post God Lives Underwater?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, for the past 7 years, that's what I've been doing, producing and programming, and Matt as well. And Matt and I had actually worked together on a few things. Hello Goodbye was the first full album that we had worked on, but we definitely worked on some of the same projects, so he's kind of doing the same thing that I'm doing.
Now, your album, Break Out the Battle Tapes, was just officially released a couple days ago. How long, once you guys decided, okay, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to record the album, how long did it take you to actually sit down in your home studios? Was that months on end? Did you guys pretty much pound it out in a weekend, or how'd that come about?
Well, about half of it was what I was kind of describing as the nighttime. Half the album was like we'd get together at night and just do it here or there, and all of a sudden when we had 6 songs, we realized that this is something that we're really into, and we need to finish it. So then the second half of the album took just about 5 weeks to finish.
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that was working more full time, but still at home, at Matt's home and my home, but just focused on it, all day.
Now, I can imagine one of the toughest things with this project is, you started it. It was kind of your brainchild from the beginning. But then, Matt comes in and starts working out with you. Was it kind of hard to give up a little bit of control and let him say, this would be really cool, this would be really cool? Or did you two just work together so well that it was never even an issue?
It was never an issue. I think it was the first time, at least initially, that Matt was just singing as opposed to doing everything, hence the name of his band, Self. And I think it was just fun for him in the beginning because and it was fun for me, too, because vocally it's like, as crazy as a track that I was making, he could fit melodies on it, and I had never encountered that before. I think it was fun and challenging for both of us, and the place for each of us was kind of obvious in the band. So
very cool. And for those of you just tuning in, I'm chatting with Jeff Turzo from Wired All Wrong. Their new album, Break Out the Battle Tapes, is just recently in stores. And for those of you not familiar with Wired All Wrong, Jeff Turzo, formerly of God Lives Underwater, and Matt Mahaffey, formerly of Self. Now, one of the things that I thought was really cool is one of the biggest promotional tools for musicians nowadays is MySpace. With concerts, albums, everything. And you guys are a featured artist on MySpace right now. How did that kind of come about?
That was just contacting some of the MySpace people. From what I heard, they just pick. They go through the discs that they get, and they pick who they want to pick. I don't know if there's any outside influence to it. And Matt had some connection to a couple of the people there, and we just gave him as soon as we had something to play for him, we gave it to him because MySpace had helped us a lot, and now it's helping us even more.
Very cool. Yeah, I noticed you guys were right up there, listed right next to another one of my favorite artists, DJ Shadow. So definitely good company in the featured artist between Wired All Wrong and DJ Shadow.
Absolutely.
Now,
good company to be in.
Now, one of the things, I got the album a few days ago, was listening to it, and, I'm like, oh, this must be a radio edit disc. Because a lot of times, for people listening who don't know, labels and bands will send CDs to radio stations that are all edited so we can play any of the tracks. When I was on your MySpace site, I found out that, no, that's the way you guys intended it to be produced. What was kind of your thinking there? How did you come up with the idea to do that? What made you want to do that?
Well, initially, the first song on the album is called 15 Minutes, and it had some of those words. And it just, there's a lot of sort of over-programmed and over-edited parts of Wired All Wrong, and I think that's a big part of what we do, is just abusing the programming and editing to turn it into its own music. And we just did that to the words because, you know what the words are, and they can be veiled, and I think it's cool like that. So we kind of disguised those words just to make that more of a thing. And, now reading on the MySpace, it's like, some people appreciate that, some people haven't. And I'm sure there will be explicit versions floating around at some point, but that's not the way we intended to make it. Was the way it is on the album. So
that's definitely very cool, because that's one of the things that BER is a non-commercial station. We've always tried to support artists that we believe in, and one thing we've always done is played the album version of a song unless it has profanity, because if an artist writes a song as an 8-minute song, example, a band like Tool, we kind of think that it's meant to be played that way, and that's one of the things I love about this album is you guys you did that, and it wasn't like you were doing it for the man so it could get played here. You did it because that's the way you wanted it to be heard.
Absolutely.
Now, another thing, your website, wiredallwrong.net. Went there to go get some information on you. Coming soon. Anytime when that's going to be coming soon?
Any day now. and literally, I mean that. Or, yeah, within the week. It's been a long time coming, and it's almost embarrassing that it's taken this long. Being a technological band that we are and not having a web page up is it's a little embarrassing, but it's coming.
Now, when you and Matt were working on all the music, with him basically supplying the vocals, were you both kind of doing music and him mostly writing the vocals? Did you both collaborate on the vocals? How did that kind of break down when you two were doing it?
Well, it really started with I was pretty much doing all the music and Matt was doing all the vocals. Later on, as we started to finish up the album, Matt started doing more of the music too, or sort of the backbones of some of the songs, and then it would be a fun thing that we would pass back and forth and see how we could take it from a basic song idea into what we considered to be the Where It All Wrong, and it was a great experience. It was really fun, and I think I really learned a lot working like that too.
Now, live show. Are you guys planning on trying to pull it off yourselves, or are you going to try and tour with some other musicians that you've worked with? How is that going to be, and do you have plans to tour anytime soon?
We do, absolutely, and we actually have a band. It's Matt and myself, and then we have a guitar player and a bass player and a drummer as well. The drummer is Scott Garrett, who was the drummer of Goggles Underwater, and the other guys are just two guys we met here, and so the band is together. We've been playing. We haven't played, or we've been rehearsing, I should say. We have our first show October 7th in downtown LA.
And then, do you plan a full-scale statewide tour where maybe your fans here on the East Coast are going to see you, or is it going to start mostly on the West Coast and see how things go, or what's your plan right now?
I think it's going to start. It's definitely going to start be focused more on the West Coast here, but we. Matt and myself both have, East Coast ties, and I still feel like we're an East Coast band in a sense because we're just East Coast people, and it's inevitable that we're coming that way,
Now, I can imagine one of the toughest things for a lot of artists is when they've had former bands or groups that have had a lot of success, like you did with God Lives Underwater, like Matt did with Self, and then you go and form a new band, it's always, Jeff from God Lives Underwater and Matt from Self. Is that something that kind of bothers you, or is it kind of like, it's good because it's getting our music out to more people that may not have originally listened to us?
Yeah, I appreciate it. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm proud of what we did and what Matt did with Self, and whatever people can relate what we're doing now to, I think is cool. It doesn't bother me a bit.
Now, you said you do a lot of producing, basically your day job, up until you start touring with Wired All Wrong. What other projects do you kind of got in the pot right now that you're working on that you can tell us about this that aren't top secret things?
Well, the Hello Goodbye is the last sort of full thing that we've done, but Matt and I both together and separately are working on some remixes for other bands. Is probably the main thing that we're doing right now. Matt worked on a Beyonce song that's on her new album that just came out, there'll be some stuff in the near future, but nothing I can say right now.
Now, like you mentioned, Matt worked on a Beyonce track on her new album. That's not weird in the music industry for people who really follow things about certain producers, certain artists working with different artists. But when a casual fan breaks down, they're like, Matt from Self and Beyonce are two totally different worlds. From your point of view, how does something come along like that where maybe an artist that in no way, shape would be associated with you end up working with?
Well, I think we have a cool, unique situation here, and that a lot of my friends who were in our position had bands in the 90s and then kind of settled here, all stayed producing and writing songs, and it's a talented group of people, and we all work with each other, and some of our friends just happen to be fantastic songwriters, and the next thing you know, movie people or Beyonce is coming to these other friends of mine, and then they say, oh, Matt does programming or keyboards. Matt, come do this, and that's how we all kind of get roped into those things. But it's interesting because a lot of the people are from sort of more 90s alternative bands, even though the projects that they're working on now are maybe more pop or more hip-hop oriented projects.
Cool. Now, again, for anyone just tuning in, I'm chatting with Jeff Turzo of Wired All Wrong. Their new album, Break Out the Battle Tapes, came out just a few days ago. And if you want any information on the band once the interview's over, definitely give me a call, 381-4353, and I will hook you up with what I know. Or you also have a site on MySpace, myspace.com. Wired All Wrong is the band name. Now, one of the projects that I read that you went to start to work on, and if this is something you don't want to talk about, just say pass because I'm sure it's a hard topic. Dave, who used to be in God Lives Underwater with, who a lot of us at BER know, passed away, was it a year ago or 2 years ago?
It was a year ago now.
Now, I had read that you might be working on trying to help finish up his project that he was working on before he passed. Any truth to that? And again, if you don't want to talk about it, we'll just pass this over.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can definitely talk about it. It's just I have gotten into it a little bit, or we did at one point, but it's just my friend who sort of produced a lot of the last stuff with Dave and I, who are, he grew up with us as well. It's still a little raw and hard to really get into, and I just found that I couldn't even focus. It was a little too intense to really start working on. But that's not to say I won't work on it or it won't get finished. And I think it is slowly being finished by other people, and I would definitely love to do something when I can. But it's hard. I mean, it's a hard thing, unfortunately.
Definitely. Now, God Lives Underwater had a lot of success. Kind of, I don't know if you would consider 1500 a major record label, wouldn't you, or associated with the major record label?
Yeah, they were always with A&M or Interscope. So. And
then now you're kind of doing the indie thing with Nitrous. What are the differences there from your point of view and the experiences you've had, and which do you kind of enjoy more and why?
Well, I mean, the whole music business is so different now than it was when we were on 1500. and I feel like there's so many advantages to being on our own label now, basically on an independent label, and the advantages to me aren't as clear anymore to be with the major label, because there's a lot of access now with obviously with the internet and with MySpace, and it's there's a lot more tools that we have to work with now than we did 8 years ago, and we really needed a label to push it out and to get people aware of it. But now we're in control, and I think that's the greatest thing.
Well, I think definitely the other big change is just the way that you can now sell your merchandise. 10 years ago, maybe even 6 years ago, you needed a major label to distribute it, to get it to the record store so people could buy it. Now you can put it right on your website. People download almost everything through iTunes or whatever other site they're using. So is that kind of a nice thing, too, to know that you're actually controlling where your stuff's available and selling it instead of not knowing which person up top stamped which paper and what might be where for how much?
Absolutely. And with the chain of people at the major label, it's just you never really knew, where who was doing what and who was taking what. And it seemed like no matter what we did or how many records we sold, we never ended up with much. And being with our own label, it's like we can sustain ourselves without having to, sell 1 million records, which is what happens, I think, to bands on major labels.
Now, another difference that I've always kind of wondered about is, with you guys being on an indie label, do you kind of get to handpick and say, this is what I think would be good as a single, where at a major label it was always kind of someone saying, this is going to work at Top 40, this is going to work here, and you guys not having a say? Or have you always had a say throughout your career?
We've always had a little bit of a say because of 1500 was our manager's label, Gary Richards, and it always gave us a little bit more control, but at the end of the day there was always other people's word was more important than ours, and now it's not like that. We definitely do have say on every step of what happens with this record and with singles, and
Now, what are a couple of your favorite tracks off of the album Break Out the Battle Tapes, and why? Is it tough to kind of, when people ask you that, is that like, I like them all, I really can't answer it? Or do you have a couple you like?
I think it's more I'm proud of it most, I think, as an album, because I enjoy it as an album, and I feel like there's not a lot of incentive for artists to make albums anymore, and I think the labels have pushed that, unfortunately. And I feel like that we've made an album, and I think that's my favorite part about it.
Very cool, very cool. Now, I know you've got other things to do, and I don't want to keep you all night, but I already played Nothing at All Elevating off the album. What do you want to hear off the album that you think might be another good track for all of our listeners to hear to kind of expose them to Wired All Wrong?
I love Nothing at All. I think that's it.
Okay.
That's a good track, too. So
cool. I won't argue with you there. And again, been chatting with Jeff Turzo of Wired All Wrong. Their album Break Out the Battle Tapes is out. Just came out a few days ago. And if the name kind of rings a bell, formerly of God Lives Underwater, also Matt Mahaffey, formerly of Self, are in the band. MySpace.com, you can check out the band site there. Wired All Wrong is the name. Need more information, let me know, 381-4353. Jeff, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your night tonight to chat with us about the album, and I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully we'll be able to see Wired All Wrong in Western New York sometime down the road. Please, pretty please?
Absolutely.
So again, this is Wired All Wrong. The song is called Nothing at All. Jeff, again, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Definitely.